Come on, come on. What'd you say, Diddy? You want a piece of Zeus? Come on, man. Let's go. We gonna make it happen.
It's only was 4 episodes.
Right.
So it was a lot. You had to pick and choose things like.
Now, I know next year is going to be a number 2.
Stop scrolling. Lock in. Because 50 Cent just did what 50 Cent does best. He lit a match, tossed it into a gasoline-soaked timeline, and walked away smiling. This time, the target wasn't a rapper, an ex, or a random internet troll. Nope. This time, 50 name-dropped the Zeus Network CEO and casually called him the next Diddy. Yeah, that comparison. The kind that doesn't whisper. The kind that detonates. One post, a few words, and suddenly the timeline reacted like someone pulled a fire alarm in a crowded mall. People froze. Screenshots flew. Group chats went DEFCON 1. Because when 50 Cent says something like that, it's never accidental, never harmless, and definitely never random. This wasn't shade. This was a warning shot, wrapped in sarcasm and served ice cold. And the internet knows the rules when 50 speaks. History starts sweating. This comparison alone makes reality TV look scripted, makes industry beefs look polite, and makes the Kardashians seem like they argue over scented candles. Because calling someone the next Diddy in this climate isn't commentary. It's a provocation. So the question isn't why the timeline exploded. The question is, what does 50 know that everyone else is pretending not to see? Welcome to Viral Trek. And trust me, this one spirals fast. The moment 50 Cent hit post, the internet didn't just react, it flinched. Because this wasn't a cryptic this wasn't a vague quote tweet. This was a clean, surgical name drop, paired with a comparison so radioactive it could power a small city. Calling the Zeus Network CEO the next Diddy in today's climate isn't humor. It's a cultural grenade with the pin already missing. And let's be clear, 50 doesn't post accidentally. This is a man who treats Instagram like a chessboard and beef like a long-term investment portfolio. Every caption is calculated. Every laugh is deliberate. So when he chose those words, people didn't ask if he meant it. They asked why now. The post spread faster than a spoiler. In a group chat, screenshots popped up everywhere within minutes. Blogs scrambled. Comment sections went feral. And suddenly, a CEO most people only associated with messy reality TV was being dragged into a much darker, heavier conversation, one he didn't ask for, and definitely didn't schedule. To understand why this hit so hard, you have to understand the weight of that comparison. The next Diddy isn't just a nickname, it's loaded. It comes with context, allegations, headlines, documentaries, and a cloud of controversy so thick it blocks out nuance. Dropping that label isn't commentary, it's an accusation-shaped question mark, and 50 knows that. Zeus Network has built its empire on chaos. Reality TV turned all the way up. Fights, breakdowns, viral clips designed to trend before the credits even roll. It's loud, it's profitable, and it's constantly towing the line between entertainment and exploitation. That alone has made Zeus controversial for years. Long before 50 ever typed a caption, critics have accused the platform of thriving off dysfunction. Supporters argue it's just raw, unfiltered content people clearly want to watch. Either way, Zeus lives in a gray area that's already uncomfortable. So when 50 Cent aimed his spotlight in that direction, the heat doubled instantly. The first reactions were pure shock. Even people who live for internet chaos paused for a second like, wait, did he really just say that? Because this wasn't random beef. There's no obvious personal history between 50 and the Zeus CEO that the public knows about. No past diss tracks. No lawsuits. No messy back and forths, which made the post feel less like trolling and more like a signal. Fans immediately started speculating. Some said 50 was joking, doing what he always does, poking the bear for engagement. Others weren't buying that at all. They pointed out that 50 has a pattern of saying things out loud that later turn out to be way less random than they first appeared. That's when the timeline started digging. Old interviews resurfaced. Past criticism of Zeus content got reposted with new captions. Clips of on-screen chaos were reframed as evidence by people who suddenly became armchair ethicists overnight. The narrative started forming in real time, whether anyone wanted it to or not. Meanwhile, defenders of Zeus pushed back hard. They accused 50 of clout chasing, of weaponizing serious comparisons for laughs, of throwing nuclear labels without accountability. And honestly, that argument wasn't wrong either. Because words like that don't just trend, they stick. The CEO himself didn't immediately respond, which only made things worse. In internet culture, silence isn't neutral. Silence is interpreted as guilt, strategy, or panic, depending on who's reading it. And every minute without a statement gave the timeline more room to speculate wildly. People started asking uncomfortable questions about power dynamics, about how reality TV stars are treated behind the scenes, about who profits when chaos becomes content. None of these questions were new, but now they were louder. What made this moment different was who asked them. If this came from a random Twitter account, it would have been dismissed as noise. But 50 Cent doesn't whisper into the void. He broadcasts, and when he chooses a target, history suggests there's usually more beneath the surface than a joke. Some fans tried to connect dots that may or may not exist. They brought up past industry scandals. They compared executive behavior across different entertainment empires. They speculated about insider knowledge, secret conversations, and unspoken warnings. And then there were the people who simply said, "This is dangerous." Because calling someone the next Diddy in a moment where reputations are collapsing under the weight of allegations isn't. Entertainment tits reputational arson, even without proof, even without follow-up. The implication alone can shift public perception overnight. That's the power of a single sentence from the right mouth. Point 50 didn't elaborate. No follow-up post. No explanation. No, just kidding. He dropped the match and watched the fire grow. And in true 50 fashion, he let everyone else argue about the smoke. The blogs framed it as beef. The fans framed it as true. The critics framed it as irresponsible. And Zeus suddenly found itself under a microscope it didn't ask for. This wasn't about guilt or innocence. Not yet. This was about narrative. About how fast a storyline can change when someone with cultural weight decides to point. And once that point happens, there's no rewind button. The conversation had shifted. What was once dismissed as just reality TV was now being discussed with words like accountability and patterns. That's a dangerous pivot for any brand built on controlled chaos. Whether 50 intended to expose something, provoke a response, or simply enjoy the explosion, one thing became obvious fast. This wasn't ending with a single post, it was just the opening. Shot the timeline didn't just react, it spiraled. Once that comparison landed, social media turned into a live improv courtroom where everyone had a microphone and absolutely nobody had a filter. Memes popped up faster than facts. And suddenly the Zeus CEO's name was trending in conversations he never auditioned for. Twitter went first. Because Twitter always goes first. Half the platform was screaming that 50 was out of pocket. The other half was asking why he'd say something that specific if there wasn't something bubbling under the surface. And the rest, just enjoying the chaos like it was a pay-per-view event with no refund policy. Instagram blogs feasted. Screenshots of Zeus shows were reposted with captions that read like moral indictments. Old criticisms were recycled, upgraded, and dressed in brand new outrage. Clips that once passed as just entertainment were suddenly framed like smoking guns by people who discovered ethics 5 minutes ago. TikTok did what TikTok does best. Turned controversy into content. Creators stitched the post, added dramatic music, widened their eyes, and whispered theories like they were narrating a true crime special filmed in a bedroom. Some acted shocked, others acted not surprised. All of them benefited from the algorithm-loving mess. Celebrities didn't directly jump in, but the subtweets were doing quotes about power, exploitation, and the truth always coming out started floating around with no names attached, but plenty of implication. Fans connected dots that may or may not exist, but confidence was at an all-time high. Then the analogies got outrageous. People said this was like calling someone the next supervillain before the origin story drops. Others joked that 50 just rebooted reality TV as a crime thriller. Someone said this makes VH1 drama look like PBS documentaries. Hyperbole, yes. Effective, absolutely. What really escalated things was how fast the conversation shifted from jokes to judgment. People started questioning behind-the-scenes practices at Zeus, how contracts work, how cast members are treated, how much chaos is curated versus encouraged. None of this was new, but now it was trending. Supporters of Zeus clapped back hard. They accused critics of selective outrage, of ignoring that the network gives opportunities to people mainstream platforms wouldn't touch, of acting shocked by content they've been binge-watching for years. And honestly, that argument landed with some weight. Meanwhile, critics doubled down. They argued that popularity doesn't equal protection, that everyone does, it isn't a defense, that platforms don't get a free pass just because chaos sells subscriptions. The comment sections turned into philosophical battlegrounds with zero referees. And through all of this, 50 Cent stayed silent. No clarification, no follow-up joke, no walk back, which only made the moment louder. Because when 50 goes quiet after throwing a grenade, people assume he's watching the blast radius with popcorn. The Zeus CEO's lack of an immediate response became a storyline of its own. Every hour without a statement fueled another wave of speculation. Was legal counsel involved? Was this being ignored on purpose? Was a response being drafted? The internet filled in the blanks aggressively. The wildest part was how fast reputations started shifting. Without any new information, that's the power of implication. Once a name gets attached to a heavy comparison, people start reevaluating everything through that lens. Old actions feel different. Old clips feel darker. Context gets rewritten in real time. This wasn't about facts anymore. It was about vibes. And vibes don't care about disclaimers. The conversation bled into larger industry debates. About executives versus talent. About who gets protected when things go wrong. About how often entertainment hides behind the word reality to avoid accountability. Suddenly, This wasn't just Zeus, it was the entire ecosystem under a spotlight. Some fans begged for receipts, others said the pattern was enough. Some demanded 50 explain himself, others said his silence was the explanation. Everyone wanted answers, and nobody agreed on the questions. And that's when it became clear, this wasn't peaking. The comparison had legs, the outrage had momentum, and the fallout was just getting warmed up. The real consequences didn't explode all at once. They settled in slowly, like fog rolling over a city that didn't realize the weather had changed. Because once a comparison like that enters public space, it doesn't just disappear when the trending tab refreshes, it lingers. It reshapes conversations. It quietly rewrites how people see power. The Zeus CEO's public image took an immediate hit not because of proven wrongdoing, but because perception doesn't wait for verdicts. Suddenly, every headline mentioning Zeus carried an undertone. Every clip was rewatched with suspicion. Every success felt questioned instead of celebrated. That's the cost of being pulled into a narrative you didn't control. Inside the industry, the temperature shifted. Executives don't tweet, but they talk. And when a name gets tied to controversy this volatile, doors don't slam shut, they hesitate. Meetings get postponed. Partnerships get reconsidered. Silence starts showing up where enthusiasm used to live. For Zeus as a brand, the spotlight became uncomfortable. What was once marketed as raw, edgy entertainment now had to answer to heavier questions. Are they pushing boundaries or exploiting them? Are they documenting chaos or encouraging it? Those debates were always there, but now they weren't niche, they were mainstream. Meanwhile, 50 Cent's reputation barely flinched. If anything, it solidified. This is the role people expect him to play: the agitator, the provocateur, the man who says what others won't and lets the aftermath speak for itself. Love him or hate him, he understands one thing perfectly: narrative control. The public also started rethinking how much power one post can carry. No expose, no lawsuit, no documentary. Just a few words from the right person, and suddenly an entire company is defending its existence in comment sections. That's modern influence in its purest form. What made this situation dangerous wasn't proof, it was possibility. The idea that maybe, just maybe, the comparison wasn't random, that maybe it was a warning, not a joke. And once that thought lodges itself in the collective mind, it doesn't need evidence to survive. It feeds on doubt. Supporters of Zeus grew louder, insisting that speculation isn't justice and comparison isn't conviction. Critics stayed just as loud, arguing that power deserves scrutiny, especially when chaos is profitable. The middle ground vanished almost instantly. The bigger impact landed on public trust. Viewers started questioning the content they consume, not enough to stop watching but enough to watch differently, with suspicion, with commentary, and that shift matters, because it changes how brands are perceived. Long-term, no arrests followed. No statements resolved everything. Life kept moving. But the stain of implication doesn't fade on schedule. It waits, it becomes context every time the name comes up again. And that's the real aftermath. Not cancellation, not collapse, but permanent tension. A name that now carries an asterisk. A brand that can't pretend it's just entertainment anymore. As for what happens next, that's the part nobody can predict. Maybe nothing. Maybe more posts. Maybe responses, maybe silence that stretches until the internet gets bored. But one thing is undeniable: 50 Cent didn't just start a conversation, he changed the lens. And once the lens shifts, there's no going back to the old picture. The question now isn't whether this blows over, it's what else gets exposed when the next name gets dropped. And now that the smoke is still hanging in the air, and nobody's rushing to clear it, it's your turn to talk. Because this wasn't just a post, it was a pressure test. So hit the comments and let it rip. Was 50 Cent joking? Warning? Or pulling the curtain back on something people tiptoe around? Is this accountability, or chaos with a Wi-Fi connection? Don't be polite, be honest. If this breakdown had you leaning closer to the screen, smash that like button like it just compared you to the next Diddy and thought you wouldn't notice. Don't tap it, gently hit it with purpose. And if you're not subscribed yet, fix that immediately. This channel lives for moments like this, when one sentence flips the whole timeline upside down. Turn on notifications because these stories don't come with trailers. One post, one name drop, one late night screenshot, and suddenly the internet's on fire again. When the next bomb drops, and it will, you'll want to be here before the narrative gets rewritten by people who missed the plot. This is where internet chaos meets context, where viral moments get dissected, power gets questioned, and nobody gets a free pass just because they own the platform. If it's messy, controversial, or smells like unfinished business, we're already tracking it, so stay locked in. Stay skeptical, stay entertained, because influence doesn't whisper, it echoes. This is Viral Trek, and the timeline never travels alone.